The Queen Bee by the Brothers Grimm. Two kings' sons once went out in search of adventures, and fell into a wild, disorderly way of living, so that they never came home again. The youngest, who was called Simpleton, set out to seek his brothers, but when at length he found them, they mocked him for thinking that he, with his simplicity, could get through the world, when they too could not make their way, and yet they were so much cleverer. They all three traveled away together, and came to an ant hill. The two elder wanted to destroy it, to see the little ants creeping about in their terror, and carrying their eggs away. But Simpleton said, "Leave the creatures in peace. I will not allow you to disturb them." Then they went onwards and came to a lake, on which a great number of ducks were swimming. The two brothers wanted to catch a couple and roast them, but Simpleton would not permit it, and said, "Leave the creatures in peace. I will not suffer you to kill them." At length they came to a bee's nest, in which there was so much honey that it ran out of the trunk of the tree where it was. The two wanted to make a fire beneath the tree, and suffocate the bees in order to take away the honey. But Simpleton again stopped them, and said, "Leave the creatures in peace. I will not allow you to burn them." At length the three brothers arrived at a castle, where stone horses were standing in the stables, and no human being was to be seen. And they went through all the halls until, quite at the end, they came to a door in which there were 3 locks. In the middle of the door, however, there was a little pane, through which they could see into the room. There they saw a little gray man, who, sitting at a table. They called him once, twice, but he did not hear. At last they called him for the 3rd time, when he got up, opened the locks, and came out. He said nothing, however, but conducted them to a handsomely spread table, and when they had eaten and drunk, he took each of them to a bedroom. Next morning the little gray man came to the eldest, beckoned to him, and conducted him to a stone table, on which were inscribed 3 tasks, by the performance of which the castle could be delivered. The first was that in the forest, beneath the moss, lay the princess's pearls, 1,000 in number, which must be picked up, and if by sunset one single pearl was wanting, he who had looked for them would be turned into stone. The eldest went thither, and sought the whole day, but when it came to an end he found only 100, and that was written on the table came to pass, and he was changed into stone. Next day the second brother undertook the adventure. It did not, however, fare much better for him, better than the eldest. He did not find more than 200 pearls, and was changed to stone. At last the turn came to Simpleton also, who sought in the moss. It was, however, so hard to find the pearls, and he got on so slowly, that he seated himself on a stone and wept. And while he thus sitting, the king of the ants, whose life he once saved, came with 5,000 ants, and before long the little creatures had gotten all the pearls together, and laid them in a heap. The second task, however, was to fetch out of the lake a key of the king's daughter's bedchamber. When Simpleton came to the lake, the ducks, which he had saved, swam up to him, dived down, and brought the key out of the water. But the third task was the most difficult. From amongst the 3 sleeping daughters of the king was the youngest and the dearest to be sought out. They, however, resembled each other exactly, and were only to be distinguished by having eaten different sweetmeats before they fell asleep. The eldest a bit of sugar, the second a little syrup, and the youngest a spoonful of honey. Then the queen of the bees, which Simpleton had protected from the fire, came and tasted the lips of all 3, and at last remained sitting on the mouth where he had eaten honey, and thus the king's son recognized the right princess. Then the enchantment was at an end. Everything was released from sleep, and those who had been turned to stone received once more their natural forms. Simpleton married the youngest and sweetest princess, and after her father's death became king, and his 2 brothers received the 2 other sisters.